So The Intercept here with a report that could be disastrous for journalism. Now, Ecuador will immediately withdraw asylum for Julian Assange and hand him over to the UK. So that's in a piece titled, that is the title of the piece written by Glenn Greenwald. So look, before I get into this, I have my own issues with Assange, and I kind of want to lay them out first, because I'm not defending his political views. I don't even know his political views, right? But I do know he had a certain political preference during the 2016 election. He wanted Donald Trump to win, right? He favored Trump to win and Democrats to lose. Now, obviously, I disagree with that because I think Republicans, we see the damage the Republicans are doing right now to a lot of different things. So, as far as his personal politics, not in favor. And look, maybe I think he had a good reason to despise the Democrats because of what happened during the Obama administration, him making sure to, WikiLeaks, of course, releasing information that the Obama administration did not want out there. So, look, I don't know, right? I'm not here to defend his beliefs. And look, I think it was massively wrong in thinking the Republicans would be better for press freedom. That said, WikiLeaks is actually really important to democracy. So you actually need a transparent and open press that is able to leak things that are uncomfortable for the government that people should know in order to have a functional democracy. So what WikiLeaks did in releasing the DNC emails, for example, they're actually really important because they showed the corruption inside of the DNC. And now what we can do with that information is use that information to actually fight the corruption inside the DNC and to rip out that tumor. That's what we want to do. Okay? Now, that said, I do wish WikiLeaks had fought just as hard to release information on the RNC. Just saying. Now, again, both of those things said, I give WikiLeaks a lot of credit. For example, releasing video, thanks to Chelsea Manning, that showed our Apache helicopters gunning down innocent people in Iraq, all while soldiers laughed about it. I think that's an important thing. So we see where our tax money is actually going. So that's actually what journalism is supposed to be. You're releasing that information about what we're actually doing. That's why what's happening is disastrous. Now, let me get to what Greenwald wrote. Ecuadoria's President Lenin Moreno traveled to London on Friday for the ostensible purpose of speaking at the 2018 Global Disability Summit. Now, Moreno has been using a wheelchair since being shot in a 1998 robbery attempt. Now, the concealed actual purpose of the president's trip is to meet with British officials to finalize an agreement under which Ecuador will withdraw its asylum protection of Julian Assange. In place since 2012, eject him from the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and then hand over the WikiLeaks founder to British authorities. Now, Moreno's itinerary also notably includes a trip to Madrid, where he will meet with Spanish officials still seething over Assange's denunciation of human rights abuses perpetrated by Spain's central government against protesters marching for Catalonian independence. Almost 3 months ago, Ecuador blocked Assange from accessing the internet, and Assange has not been able to communicate with the outside world ever since. The primary factor in Ecuador's decision to silence him was Spanish anger over Assange's tweets about Catalonia. Now, a source close to the Ecuadorian Foreign Ministry in the president's office, unauthorized to speak publicly, has confirmed to The Intercept that Moreno is close to finalizing, if he has not already finalized, an agreement to hand over Assange to the UK within the next several weeks. The withdrawal of asylum and physical ejection of Assange could come as early as next week. On Friday, RT reported that Ecuador was preparing to enter into such agreement. Now, the consequences of such an agreement depend in part on the concessions Ecuador extracts in exchange for withdrawing Assange's asylum. But as former Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa told The Intercept in an interview in May, Moreno's government has returned Ecuador to a highly subservient and submissive posture towards Western governments. It is thus highly unlikely that Moreno, who has shown himself to be willing to submit to threats and coercion from the UK, Spain, and the US, will obtain a guarantee that the UK not extradite Assange to the US. where top Donald Trump officials have vowed to prosecute Assange and destroy WikiLeaks. So, basically, here you have a chain of events being set up that will unfold and lead to the final extradition of Julian Assange to the United States. Now, that actually will end up with at least the founder of WikiLeaks being imprisoned and for publishing material that was classified. And what they say, is in the national interest that this does not get released. Well, how does that video of U.S. soldiers gunning down Iraqi civilians, how is keeping that hidden in the national interest? It's not. It's not in the national interest. So that's the thing here, right? So this is more than just about Assange. It's actually more than just about WikiLeaks as well. I mean, you can't argue that this information should have been kept private, away from the public. This is what our, government is doing in our name. This is what our tax money is going for. You guys are paying for this. Do you like the fact that our money goes to bomb innocent people overseas? Well, you can thank WikiLeaks for exposing what we're actually doing, bombing innocent people, killing innocent people. They expose that, right? That's their function, to expose the shady things the government is engaged in. Now, look, as progressives, I know we put a lot of stock in the government, but also realize the government also does a lot of shady things. So you have to have organizations there that are willing to hold them accountable. So, and I think that's why we need those organizations that are dedicated to transparency in the First Amendment. Now, if we prosecute Assange and go after WikiLeaks for doing journalism, right, regardless of their motive, by the way, it's actually really dangerous to the First Amendment and freedom of the press. Okay? This would allow the government, who does hide things from us, to effectively have a precedent to arrest and charge reporters for reporting on those things, not for stealing classified data. WikiLeaks did not steal the DNC emails. All they did is that they were handed the emails and then they reported on them. And you could substitute WikiLeaks for any of the other establishment media sources, New York Times, for example. Are you okay with arresting New York Times sources for reporting on things that are classified? I would hope not, if you actually do believe in a fair and open press. And again, despite your personal feelings about Assange or your personal feelings about WikiLeaks, this is bigger than that. This is more big picture, right? The implication here is wide-ranging, and none of those implications are good. And if you think that none of this will happen, just remember, we're under full Republican control now. Republicans, conservatives are authoritarians, okay? And the courts, because of that, are also incredibly right-wing and can rule against press freedom. Look, they're more apt to silence journalists that might embarrass them and reveal what they're actually doing. And here's the irony, right? The Trump administration. Now, Donald Trump, I could show you videos of Trump saying, I love what WikiLeaks is doing. Keep releasing those emails, right? Well, now, here's the Trump administration, that same administration, now putting a knife in the back of Assange. Well, there you go. Now that we're in power, we don't want our secrets exposed. That's how authoritarians get power. And look, they already have it. I've reported on this before. Again, thanks to WikiLeaks and other organizations and actual journalism, right? We know that the NSA spies on us, thanks to Edward Snowden. They vacuum up our metadata, okay? We no longer have habeas corpus. There's indefinite detention in this country. We have all these different problems, all these different abuses and challenges to our Fourth Amendment rights to search and, to protect against search and seizure of our information and of our property. And now, what, are we going to be okay with them coming from press freedom just because some of us might not like Assange or what he did, or the fact that he preferred Donald Trump in the election, which I think, again, was incredibly stupid. Look, it doesn't matter your personal feelings, is what I'm trying to say. There are bigger issues. We've got to look at this big picture and long term, right? And if the government is successful in going after WikiLeaks for reporting this stuff, then that means the end of the First Amendment. That's the end of press freedom. And if you care about these things, then you should be incredibly worried, as I am. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.